So here it is, 26 minutes into this. I'm trying my best to continue the lesson and saying, look, man, your government's lying to you, everything else. And this Edomite just, man, he just wasn't going away anyways. So the decision to leave, just this one that I had to make. So you'll see what I mean here.
We saw Saddam Hussein get killed by the people. We've seen the leader of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, get killed, but there was no body of Osama bin Laden, even though that's the boogeyman that they wanted us to believe had caused the 9/11 attacks. Yet, there was an Illuminati card game that said terrorist nuke, and it shows the buildings coming down, the 1996 Illuminati card game. And then you have even old footage of WWF saying the Twin Towers would come coming down. They put this in predictive programming for a reason. They had a reason for this. So they started the war of terror, and yet they would be looking for somebody. Remember that, old interview on, the guy from Trading Places that did the movie Trading Places, talked to Alex Jones and said that they would be looking for a guy in a case, but they wouldn't be able to find him, and this war would just go on. They'd be looking for him, and they were going to go into many places, but yet they would never find him. But then all of a sudden, conveniently, now they found him. They couldn't catch him all those times before, even though they had destroyed Iraq, they had gone in and destroyed Afghanistan, which is really about taking the drugs from the Russians, the poppy fields, so that way they can take that. So that's why you're seeing all these other things pop up, and they want the war with Iran because, of course, it's all about the oil. It's always been about the oil, and these Rothschilds know it. That's always been their power structure, Iran used to be a part of that until the coup d'etat of 1953, but then, after that coup d'etat, 1979 came the Islamic Revolution. Ever since then.
God, yeah, I'm gonna look for God, yeah. I'm gonna look for God, yeah, 'cause this is America. I'm gonna look for God, yeah.
Well, you know that America is Babylon the Great, right? You know that America is Babylon the Great in the scriptures, right?
See what I mean? Total bug out. He was just trying to look for his fame. I mean, I played this video back to my wife, and that's what she said about him. But nonetheless, though, you can see, though, that, the lesson was, though, that, they create the boogeyman. They created this war because ineffably the last country that they wanted to go into was Iran. And we're seeing that now. Troops are being moved into Saudi Arabia. I already knew that because of the fact that, you have WWE over there for about 2 years straight. They've been going into Saudi Arabia and doing their shows. So I knew that the troops had been moved in there and that there would be more false flags, and we're seeing that. So nonetheless, though, he thought he was going to get his moments of fame. No, I'm not like the Sakari group going to say, Edomite gets width of this truth. I'm not looking for catchy titles. The lesson is that the war in the Persian Gulf will lead to World War III. It's going to escalate to World War III. That was the lesson. I did the best I could to continue that lesson, and I'll probably continue it more this week. Hopefully that Edomite doesn't show up. Like I said, that was on a Sunday morning, and just another Edomite Christian, coming in with his philosophies, wanting his fame. Obviously wasn't going to let me teach. And like everything else, though, what can I do to run him off, man? I don't know what this guy is capable of. So, staying in the spirit of things, that's what happened last weekend. Meanwhile, back in Syria, because this is taking place over the weekend, Gomer is calling Operation Peace Spring. Day 7 of Turkey's Syria offensive. Latest updates. The Turkish army is pushing ahead with a military operation which entered into its 7th day on Tuesday against the Kurdish militants controlling northern Syria in complete defiance of the international community. The planned military campaign after the U.S. abruptly pulled its forces out of the region, leaving its longtime Kurdish allies, which let's face it, that was a group that the United States could exploit. The very thing I was explaining on the streets. It was a group they could exploit, but they were never going to help the Kurds. No, of course not. The best thing the Kurds can do is, in fact, work with the Syrian Arab army. That's the only protection they're going to have. Any deal with this devil, is they're just going to get screwed. In complete defiance of the international community. The planned military campaign came after the U.S. abruptly pulled its forces out of the region, leaving its longtime Kurdish allies there vulnerable to the Turkish offensive. And this is not the only time that America has screwed the Kurds. They did that in Iraq as well, and led to their slaughter. The developments led the Kurds to reach out to the Damascus government for support. So they did. They did ask Bashar al-Assad for support. Reaching an agreement with the Syrian Arab army to enter towns near the border with Turkey. Here are the latest updates on Ankara's incursion on Tuesday. Syrian troops entered into Manbij. Syria's Al-Aqsa State TV reported that the Syrian government troops have deployed inside the northern city of Manbij in Aleppo province. The broadcast included footage of Manbij residents celebrating the arrival of Syrian forces. And I have that video here, so I'm going to go ahead and play that. Now, history should have told them to never trust the Edomites, but, nonetheless, though, they welcomed Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian Arab army, and here's footage from that.
يا ياباني بالجيش السوري يا يابا احنا قربان بشار الاسد واحنا قربان دولتنا يا يابا يحييهم الله ويا هلا بيهم يا هلا بيهم يا هلا بالمحافظ كلها هلا سوريا.
It kind of goes back to what Muammar Gaddafi said, that is my people love me, and same thing here in Syria. The people of Syria love Bashar al-Assad, despite what the U.S. and the mainstream media might tell you that, he's this brutal dictator. Well, if they're holding up pictures of Bashar al-Assad, and by the way, the people of Iraq also love Saddam Hussein, they would hold pictures up of him too, then we've been lied to the whole time, and that's just it, though. That's what I was trying to state on the streets. That Edomite couldn't proceed, that America was Babylon the Great. But nonetheless, though, pretty much, the Kurds have been betrayed again. As usual, you make any deals with this devil, he's going to betray you. The so-called Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is the terrorists, because they protect ISIS, an alliance of mainly Kurdish militants, which that's a lie, had put up stiff resistance around the northeastern city of Rasan Haskan province. The Syrian Democratic Forces launched a major counterattack overnight against the Turkish forces and their Syrian proxies near Rasan al-In in the UK-based monitoring group. The Kurdish militants, it added, have managed to hold off the Turkish efforts to seize the city due to fortifications, tunnel networks, and a continuous supply of reinforcements. Ankara claimed earlier that its forces had captured Rasan al-Ain from Kurdish militants. Kurds report halting international aid. The self-proclaimed Kurdish authority in northeastern Syria complained that the Turkish invasion had forced all humanitarian organizations out of the region. The humanitarian plight of the displaced in areas targeted by the aggression had worsened, with all humanitarian aid being cut off and all international organizations ceasing their activities, it said in a statement. The Kurdish authority also estimated that the Turkish campaign had displaced more than 275,000 people, including over 70,000 children. Qatar takes Turkey's side. Qatar defended Turkey's Syria operation, saying Ankara has only acted against a threat. Speaking at a global security forum meeting in Doha, Qatar's Foreign Ministry Mohammed bin Assam Al Thani said Ankara had been forced to respond to an imminent threat by the Turkish security, stressing we can't put all the blame on Turkey. Well, of course, because Turkey's really just all about protecting their assets in the Idlib province as well. Make no mistake about it. You know, they're terrorist groups because the U.S. has created a new terrorist group called the Syrian Democratic Forces. So they have to back up their terrorists that are still in the Idlib province. You know, so it's a little bit of everything. You know, so they could just have an all-out war. Remember, the prophecy said Gomer and all his bands would be in this war, and we could see that. In the beginning, Turkey said, don't support these groups, he said, referring to the U.S.-backed YPG militants. Nobody listened. They have been trying to solve the issue for more than a year with the United Snakes to create a safe zone to get the threat away from their border. Turkey couldn't reach any solution with the U.S. They couldn't handle this threat until it became explosive for them, the top Qatari diplomat said. Turkey vows to continue operation until objectives are achieved. Turkish President Erdogan emphasized that the Syrian operation would not stop until all our objectives have been achieved. Allah willing, we will secure the region stretching from Manbij to our border with Iraq and ensure that in the first stage 1 million and then 2 million Syrian refugees return to their homes of their own free will, with Erdogan said in a televised speech in Baku. He further said that 1,000 square kilometers of Syrian territory had so far been liberated from the separatist terrorist organization, which, you know, all that is lies, because Bashar al-Assad already told you what was going on there, you know, that if they really cared about Syria, you know, or Syrian refugees, then they would not be supporting the terrorist groups that'd be in the Idlib province. It is Turkey that is preventing the Syrian refugees from returning back home to Syria. It is Turkey. But now the Edomites, the terrorists themselves, express their anger at Trump's betrayal of the Kurds. Yeah, pretending like they're there for humanitarian effort. No, they are part of ISIS. They've always supported ISIS. But here's what these Edomites are going to say, them fucking liars, those devils, because they're the ones that started this war to begin with. The United States has betrayed the Kurdish people who were U.S. allies in northeastern Syria, American military officials have said. U.S. pulled out of the region ahead of a Turkish incursion after Ankara claimed the attack on the Kurdish regions in a phone call between Turkish President Erdogan and his American counterpart, of course talking about Donald Trump. But you see, this was a deal all along. U.S. media said on Tuesday that the American troops were frustrated at President Trump for his betrayal of the Kurds. Yeah, sure, they were really upset about it back in 1991 as well. While everybody was supporting America, finally we done it, we liberated Kuwait. Yeah, you know, they all celebrated themselves and gave themselves a pat on the back for a job well done, while the Kurds were being slaughtered in Iraq. Yeah, they're really upset about this. Bullshit. But then again, that's what this red Hebrew Edomites do. They lie. They cheat. They steal. They kill. Which is exactly how they got this place. They did everything we asked them to, said one U.S. defense official speaking to media, adding, this is really not good for us. Many Americans are concerned that Trump's policies and sudden U-turns in agreements will make the U.S. lose its credibility. U.S. has no credibility. The only credibility they have is that they harbor and sponsor terrorism. That's what their credibility is. How do we expect anyone to partner with us now? Another U.S. defense official asked. Turkey launched its long-awaited incursion into Syria using the country's military forces and the Turkish-backed militants of the so-called Free Syrian Army, which was the original ISIS, but then they decided, we'll just protect these ISIS units. Gomer, you're on your own, you know, which has led to Gomer and all his bands joining in there. You know, because, of course, the U.S. had broke alliance with Gomer over the fact that, you know, pretty much they did not back Gomer when they shot down the Russian jet. And then Erdogan had to face Putin alone. Russia damn near would have destroyed them if he didn't make a deal with them, so he bought S-400 systems, which is what's led to the United States breaking its alliance with Gomer, but pretending to still have one. You see, they're trying to get their, terrorist groups back, but nonetheless, though, they're not protecting the Free Syrian Army anymore. So those terrorists are left on their own while they created a new terrorist group in lieu of the Free Syrian Army, and that's what the SDF is about. That's what this whole war has been about between the U.S. and Gomer, but now they've made a deal. Go ahead and attack the Kurds. Fuck them. Fuck them. Hey, we fucked them before during, the first Operation Desert Storm. We can fuck them again. We're good at fucking people. That's what we do. The offensive targeted Kurdish areas with the U.S.-backed militants from the People's Protection Units guarded the border areas. Turkey said the objective of Operation Peace Spring was to neutralize terror threats against Turkey and lead to the establishment of a safe zone for Syrian refugees. In other words, a safe zone for the Free Syrian Army, which are the terrorists that were originally a part of ISIS when ISIS was all molded into one. But then the United States broke that and created their new terrorist group, the Syrian Democratic Forces. That's what this really is about. The Trump administration, which has threatened to slap big sanctions on Turkey, says Turkish troops would have attacked the Kurds even if the U.S. troops were still there. U.S. lawmakers, however, have harshly denounced Trump's betrayal of the Kurds as a strategic blunder that will further tarnish U.S. credibility, greatly weakening the international community trust of U.S. pacts and policies. Well, everybody knows that the United States are nothing but a fucking bunch of goddamn terrorists. The whole world fucking community knows that. And this is where the beast is going to break off from the whore, Babylon the Great. And this one in from Zero Hedge. Pentagon confirms Manbij handed over to Russia as U.S. forces filmed departing. A stunning development in the key northern city of Manbij, the Pentagon has confirmed a planned handover to Russian military forces is underway amid a Turkish military assault on the region. This also hours after President Trump tweeted that Assad wants naturally to protect the Kurds and that the latest problems should be left to local powers. Which the United States wanted the blood spill, because that's what the United States is good at. Late Monday, the main U.S. base in Manbij was filmed empty of U.S. forces, and American convoys were also spotted hastily pulling out of the city as Syrian national forces entered, following Sunday's historical deal between the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces and the Assad government. So, pretty much, though, you can see this is all a dog and pony show. The U.S. military has begun a hastily exit from Syria's northern city of Manbij and is set to help Russia establish itself there amid a Turkish attempt to defeat Kurdish-led Pentagon backfires as a strategic location, Newsweek has learned. As the Syrian national flag went up on multiple previous U.S.-backed SDF towns on Monday, it was yet unclear what Russia's role in all that would be. Through Monday, there were also widespread rumors that Russian jets were circling over key border posts as Turkish forces shelled Kurdish positions below. A Pentagon official says Manbij will be handed over to Russia as Russian journalist films a video of the abandoned U.S. military base in town. So we'll see if we can play this here. Alright, this devil ain't gonna let it play. Okay, one more article here, and this is a big one this week. U.S. to send 3,000 troops, warplanes to Saudi Arabia to confront Iran. Following news that an Iranian oil tanker was attacked with missiles off the coast of Saudi Arabia, the U.S. has announced that they will send 3,000 ground troops and 2 squadrons of fighter jets to Saudi Arabia to confront Iran. Through the timing of this seems fairly obviously linked to the missile incident, Pentagon officials made no mention that it even happened. Instead, citing last month's drone attack on Saudi's oil refineries, which Yemeni Houthis claim credit for, but blame the it was blamed on Iran. The U.S. had already sent troops and defensive missiles to the Saudi kingdom over the refineries. Defense fucketary Mark Esper claimed the move was based on a highlighted threat from Iran, which actually I haven't really seen Iran's response to their oil tanker being fired at. In fact, Iran's actually been pretty calm about this. Tensions are certainly higher, even if the Iranian threat is almost always overstated. Having an oil tanker hit with missiles would certainly have this effect on tensions. This rapid announcement of this deployment by the Pentagon suggests they weren't exactly taken by surprise at the incident with the oil tanker. See, they're trying to provoke Iran to respond, but Iran is not stupid. They already know what this trap is. Having U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia at all is historically controversial. Instead, it was one of the main grievances of the Al-Qaeda before 9/11, believing it was inappropriate to have U.S. troops in their holy land. Adding thousands more is only going to make this a bigger deal. Well, that's because the Saudi royal family is really where the terrorists are coming from, which is Amalek. Because ISIS is really Israeli secret intelligence services. So putting this all together, pretty much so, we're at the very beginning stages of this. This is 2 Ezra chapter 6, starting in verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And we're at the beginning of this transition where the power of Esau Edom is crumbling, and Jacob, we Jakes, starting with the prophets, which for right now it seems like we're a small group, but one third of us is actually going to be spared from this destruction. 1/3 will repent, along with 144,000, the house of David. And the house of David has been built, so that's why we're starting to see this transition. We're starting to see Esau Edom fall apart. We're starting to see the beast hate the whore and want to burn her with fire. So we're at the very beginning stages of this, because they're sick of the United States and it's bullshit. So we're seeing this. Esau being the end of this world and Jacob the beginning of it that follow it. So when you see the prophets out on the streets like I was, of course the Edomites want to mock and make fun of it, which is why that Edomite interrupted me. Ultimately, because he can see that he's near his end. But remember what I stated before, and here's where it comes into play. I stated, as many others have stated, actually I was just reinstated what had already been stated, that Esau is a wounded animal out in the wilderness, and what do you think that animal's going to do now that he's been wounded? He's been wounded by this truth and all that. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to fucking flip the fuck out, and you can see that man had demons on him, You don't know what this man's capable of, but remember, he's a wounded animal, so what are you going to do? Well, you're going to do what you can, but nonetheless, do you confront a wounded animal? Do you pick up a squirrel after you run it over? Oh, man. You do what you can to leave it the fuck alone, because you know that Esau's losing his grip. He's going to be coming after us, and Most High will have the protection of his prophets. Some of us might have to lose our heads over this testimony. I mean, the guillotines are there. The hand of man is bewitched to the heel and the hand. Other question, Esdras, asked thou not? If I answered then and said, O Lord that bearest rule, if I have found favor in thy sight, I beseech thee, show thy servant the end of thy tokens, whereof thou showest me part the last night. And we're in that last night right now. As that national anthem, we're at the twilight's last gleaming. So they're last gleaming, man. They can't hold on to any credibility. Everybody sees the United States as the greatest traitor of all. Definitely, how many times are they going to screw over the Kurds? I mean, they do it again and again. That any word with the United States is just going to break it anyways. So they hate the whore. I answered then and said, O Lord that bearest rule, if I found favor in thy sight, I beseech thee, show thy servant the end of thy tokens, whereas thou showest me the part of the last night. So at the twilight's last gleaming, as I said before. So he answered me and said unto me, stand upon thy feet, and hear a mighty sounding voice. And that's what's happening, man. We're speaking loudly on the streets. We're out there. We're speaking. And the prophecies are speaking. And that Edomite, he knew it. He knew that there wasn't much left of this. And it shall be as it were a great motion, but the place where thou standest shall be mourned. And therefore, when it speaketh, be not afraid, for the word is of the end, and the foundation of the earth is understood. And why? Because the speech of these things trembleth, and is moved. For it knoweth that the end of these things must be changed. And that's what's happening. We're seeing a transitioning. Esau's a wounded animal, and, I'm pretty sure he wanted to have a reason to strike me. He wanted me to provoke him because he was trying to provoke me. But I did not react in anger. I just quietly left. He may think he ran me off, but I'll be right back. He had his moment. He's going to really be shitting his fucking pants when he sees some fucking missiles going off. And it happened that when I heard it, I stood up upon my feet and hearkened, and behold, there was a voice that spoke, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters, talking about Yahweh Shai. And it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and visit them that dwell upon the earth. And that's happening now. And will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that how hurt unjustly with the unrighteousness, and the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. So again, we're seeing it. And when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens. The book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. These books are being opened right now. The angels that are holding back the battle in the river Euphrates, that's where Gomer and all his bands are right now. So you can see these angels letting loose. And the Valley Yehoshaphat is open. The troops are moving into Saudi Arabia. And tensions with Iran are increasing. Least of their flock, Amalek's going to draw them into this battlefield. And we're seeing that. Amalek has taken a lot of things on their own, man. They've been invading Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria. And if they could get into Iran, they will. Eventually, they will get into Iran. And you can see that mark of the beast is right around the corner. PG&E shut off the power last week, and they said they would just do that regularly because of wildfire threat, which that there's no wildfire threat except the energy weapons that they're using. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The woman with child shall bring forth untimely children, or 3 or 4 months old, and shall loo and be raised up. And that's what's happened now, from young to old, man, we're out there now prophesying, we're being raised up. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Our people are leaving them fucking whorehouses that they call church, and they're getting to the real church, which is the ministry that'd be on the streets. And that other Edomite knew that, man, that the real church is on the street. And the trumpet shall glue a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall suddenly be afraid. And they're afraid. Esau's a wounded animal. They see these things happening. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The spring of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 houses they shall not run. Yeah, exactly. So, they're going to ravage your houses. They're going to break in. That's already happening ever since the car fire, man. People are trying to claim, they're going into these abandoned buildings and then trying to claim the houses as theirs, trying to literally throw people out of the houses, because their houses were ravished. Whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and shall see my salvation and the end of your world. So again, those that are abiding, are going to see the salvation. The salvation is for the elect of Yashala. And the men that are rescued shall see it, who have not tasted death from their birth, and the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed and turned into another meaning. again, pretty much though, what's going to happen is this place going to be consumed by nuclear fire. That Edomite, he knew it. And, like everything else, so that's why he was interrupted, because, he knows that his time is near. So, hope all this has been edifying. Going to still go out there and teach. Most likely I'm going to do a lesson tomorrow morning, Lord willing. So, for that, I want to say Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Wa Abab Abal. Brakatum to you hopeful elect. I hope these videos are edifying. Shalom.